Welcome to a 13-part special series for Alumni Live, the podcast. These are conversations with Grand Valley State University film and video students, faculty, and alumni about the film and video major. So, Professor Spencer Everhart, we are talking about writing and scripts, but there's this whole other world of writing that isn't just about making the films, but also thinking about them, how they affect us. And that world is called film studies. Can you tell us a little bit about what film studies is and what it means at Grand Valley?
Our idea with the curriculum for the film program at Grand Valley is sort of that you have all of the courses where you learn the hands-on techniques, you learn how to shoot, how to edit, how to design sound, kind of the nuts and bolts of filmmaking. But the other side of it is we have all these other courses where the idea is you need to become better at watching films. It means something to sort of be able to make these things, but it also means something to be able to be critical of them and to analyze them. So when people think about film analysis and they think about the classic idea of like film school, where you go and you get to watch movies, that's kind of what these courses are. But the idea really is to become more literate, essentially, in the language and the techniques of cinema, and also to become aware of the history of cinema. So we look back at what's come before us. We look back at different schools of thought and techniques, different theories about filmmaking. And the idea is really to imbue a sense of kind of criticality in students to give them a better sense of what it means to watch films and understand how they work and how they create meaning both for ourselves and our individual experiences, but also in the larger sense of how they are a part of our culture and how they're cultural objects that contribute to the way that we think and the way that we feel. And so trying to get closer to those types of ideas is the main thing that we do in a lot of these film studies courses.
Yeah, I used to get really excited to come into class for those discussions. And, what I really took away from those is nobody makes a movie in a vacuum, right? Like, like you said, we're bringing in culture, we're thinking about issues. And, even if it's just about our lives, like there's still, we're tying in all these other things. And so just like the films don't take place in a vacuum, the thinking about films doesn't take place in a vacuum. And I understand you involve the students in a lot of other extracurricular activities to talk about and think about films, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're totally right in the context of how a film is made, but also the context of who made it, where it was made, the time is important. And of course, thinking about those things is going to come out a lot of times, especially in how I kind of do my classes in discussion. And a lot of the experience of these courses is related to the discussion, but it's also in the writing. And like writing skills and becoming a better writer is absolutely a part of these courses too. But one of the differences is that, the production courses for a lot of the films and the projects that students make, they get to show those off because after the end of every semester, we have these showcases where a lot of student work is shown to other students, family members who want to come join it. It's kind of an exhibition. The film studies courses didn't really have the same thing for a while, but way back in, I think you want to say it's 2011, 2012, actually was when I was getting ready to finish my own undergrad studies at Grand Valley. We came up with the idea that there should be a film journal at Grand Valley. So we came up with synesthesia. And the idea there was that any sort of superlative work that was coming out of these courses would be able to be published in this journal as a sort of legit academic venue for showing your work. And it wouldn't be just for other students to see or other faculty to see, it would be available to the public. And you can see on the website here that we're many, many issues in. This has been going for a while now. It's very, very successful. We're super proud of the work that the students have contributed to it. We're also super proud of the fact that apart from myself and another colleague who are the kind of faculty editors, the actual editorial board of the journal is all students. So they get to have that experience too of like taking in submissions, reading them, copy editing, and kind of judging how a journal issue could come together with a theme. But yeah, it's really great. And if you scroll down a little bit on the site, you can see too that there's a map that shows you that this stuff is read all over the world. There's like many, many countries around the world where these papers and these writings, or even sometimes video essays, we encourage video essays to be published here too, can be shown. So that's another avenue that we're really proud of that we think is a great way to kind of extend the film studies work out beyond the classroom.
Yeah, I remember around 2011, like you said, when it started up, and students were like really excited about it. And, because we had, production clubs and we had light clubs and we had sound clubs, but all of a sudden there was this, this writing club that was about films and it tapped into an energy. I think it's just a great example to show like how Grand Valley doesn't leave any students behind. Like we're really making sure that, we have a diverse way for students to engage with this medium of film.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's a whole part of it too. I mean, anytime that I get, a piece of writing that I'm impressed by or something, that's the first thing I say. I'm like, you should submit this to synesthesia. Like, you got to get it in there, you know?
Right, and all of a sudden it's getting read in New Zealand or something. What are
Yeah.
some examples of what have students been writing about?
It's all kinds of stuff. Sometimes the other writing will mostly pertain to the specific assignments that are in the classes. But oftentimes, when we're assigning those types of prompts, they're pretty open. But it can be anything. I mean, they can be writing about contemporary films that have come out. Maybe they've gotten a lot of attention in the past couple of years. But sometimes they're more historical and they're going back to looking at cinema, in like the 1990s in South Korea, or maybe they're thinking about. I remember one of the very first papers that we published in the first issue, I believe, that's gotten some of the most views on there is about Little Miss Sunshine, which
There's
is
a
a film
lot to
that.
write out in that movie.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it really, in terms of the topics, it's all over the place. It's a huge variety.
Right. I gotta tell you something too. Is this past year so I'm a documentary filmmaker myself. I worked with one of your students, and she was a recent graduate, and she would think about filmmaking and composing shots in a whole different way because of and she would reference like I wrote this thing in Spencer's class that said this, and so I think that's just a great example on how like this film theory work can also really make your productions better too.
That's so great to hear, actually, because that is so much a part of like why I find it important. Because the vast majority of the students in these courses and these programs want to be filmmakers, or they want to be involved in the filmmaking process at whatever level. And yeah, for me, it's like, if you're not going to take this stuff and become a writer or a teacher, which many don't, that's fine. The idea is to take it and apply it to the work you're doing. And it doesn't matter whether you want to be a cinematographer, editor, whatever facet of film production you want to be a part of, this stuff applies. Like, it all makes sense. It's all pertinent. And so if you can have that stuff kind of germinated in your mind while you're working on something or when you're in that creative mode, I mean, that's all I can really, ask for.
Yeah, I mean, because you make thousands of decisions for every film in every part of it, and like you need a way to filter those decisions. And I really do think this is a great foundation to make those. And it's also a great way to watch films too. I understand you also put together some film festivals.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, there's this thing that I started last year called Cinespace, which is an online just film series on campus. I've been in Grand Valley for a little while now, and every semester I was like, I think any real kind of self-respecting film program needs to have a film series where students can come and watch films together outside of the regular classroom environment, and kind of sharing the experience of watching films as a group, and then discussing them. So it still is an academic event in the sense that the idea is to watch the films and then talk about them. And I'm there to kind of facilitate the discussion. But yeah, so I was like, we need to do this. We need to get something going. And so here you can see the poster for the first series that we did. It was 10 films over the course of a fall semester. I programmed it. I had some students helping me kind of organize it and get the word out. But it was this idea where, like, Wednesday evenings at 6:30, if you don't have class and you don't have anything else going on, come on over and let's sit down and watch some really fascinating works. And let's just try to, really a part of it is like practice the skills that you're kind of learning in the film studies courses,
Sure.
and to trying to apply it a little bit more, especially to films, a lot of films that sort of are not only films that I think are interesting or like, but probably is stuff that wouldn't necessarily be shown in class either.
Yeah, like those aren't even, when you say it's like an academic event, these aren't like stuffy films. Like you've got some John Carpenter movies on there, right? You got Shin Godzilla, like, you got
Oh
some
yeah.
really fun stuff to dig into and watch as a group and really think about.
Yeah, it's been a blast, honestly. I mean, there over the course of even this first time that we did it, I could see us building a kind of community of it and these regulars being able to come out, and it was really exciting. It was a lot of fun, and the past semester where we did it again, it was cut off a little bit because of lockdown and into now, and so it's a little bit on hiatus. But like, we're ready to like get it going again and have it going strong for as long as we can get it going.
Absolutely. And the movies that you're thinking about too, like you also have film festivals that make sure that we're highlighting stories from people of color and also other minorities. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Within Grand Rapids itself, there are a number of festivals or film series that I really try to highlight in these classes and to let students know about, because There's a lot more going on out there, even in Grand Rapids, apart from what's playing at the multiplex. Something like the Chiaroscuro International Film Series, which is a long running series
What
that's
was that
done.
word again?
It's called Chiaroscuro,
What does
which
that mean?
that's an Italian word that comes from painting, but it's actually used in film a lot. It essentially means an image that has really intense shadow play. And oftentimes there's like one light source coming in and there's a huge contrast. It was a theme and kind of a style of painting for a while, but there's a lot of films that also use this style as well.
I was like, I'm in one of your film studies classes with that.
Yeah. This is going into its 15th season now, so it's been around for a while, and I'm actually on the board for this series, and I help program the specific films that are chosen for it. But the idea here is that it's an international film series. So there are sometimes English language films, but they're not from the United States. They would probably be from, say, like, from New Zealand, which was mentioned earlier, or from the UK. But in general, it's from other places in Europe, Africa, Asia. It's trying to kind of cast the net as wide as possible to bring these international films to Grand Rapids. And part of the idea is, and this kind of goes along with the film series idea that I've created, but with Chiaroscuro, we bring in a panel of people to discuss the film afterwards. So we bring in like a film expert or scholar to talk about the kind of cinematic aspects of the film. And then we also bring in a cultural panelist to give us a little bit better sense of the country and the culture that produced the film.
Mhm.
And then we kind of do like a discussion and Q&A with the audience, and then afterwards we have a reception where we have food from the country of origin of the film. And
Wow.
so it's this, and it's all free too. That's the other thing that's great about it, is it's free. So yeah, it's really great. I've been a part of it for a couple of years, and I'm really proud of the work we do there. And it's something that I'm always trying to extend an invitation to students to come and experience it, because the idea really is to get them exposed to the types of filmmaking that is being done in other parts of the world. And of course, when you do that and you expand outside of the Hollywood model, you're of course going to encounter other types of filmmaking that doesn't necessarily correspond to the norms of American cinema, which is always a good thing.
Sure. And I think that's, like you said, a great example of like, Grand Valley is in this region of Michigan where we do have these film showings. When I was a student, I would go to, film showings at the Wealthy Theater and later at the UICA.
Hmm.
You do just, you get to pull stuff in. And the fun thing about that too is I had friends who weren't just filmmakers, but they would always come to my events. And we would like, I'd have a friend who was a history major come and, we would talk about a movie there, a friend who was a sociology major and we talk about stuff there. So I think it's just a great way to, really connect with other people.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the thing too, is like when you go to this, or speaking of Wealthy Theater, which is wonderful venue in Grand Rapids that I also try to push students to go to all the time because it's beautiful, an incredible venue. Even that theater hosts like the Grand Rapids Latin American Film Festival, which is another festival in town that has a similar kind of impulse or mandate as Chiaroscuro, except it's just focused on Latin American cinema.
Hmm.
And they actually are often involved in bringing filmmakers to Grand Rapids to participate in discussions and Q&As about their films that are shown. It's a similar idea, and kind of going along with what you said, like with this and Chiaroscuro, it's not just film people or film students that are coming to these. It really is drawing people from all parts of Grand Rapids, different communities, and it's wild to see how many different people can kind of show up at these and contribute to the discussion and bring their own perspectives. And yeah, exactly what you're describing, where you've got even like students or people from other departments or majors can come in and bring a kind of perspective to the films that are shown.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
those events also like help really launch a career because those are networking events. Like you're talking about bringing in, filmmakers from around the world, all of a sudden that's an internship, right? Like that turns into real world careers.
absolutely. And being able to talk to some of the filmmakers that are brought, or talk to even where I mentioned like the film experts that we bring in for chiaroscuro, it is a way to connect. And even these festivals often will have internship opportunities for students too. I mean, I know like right now we have an intern for chiaroscuro who's helping us figure out our current season, or the season that's coming up rather. So even on that level, there's an extension to the university and an extension to the idea that students can not just participate in terms of being a spectator and being an attendee, but they can also participate by becoming a part of the organization itself.
Yeah, so important. Lot of great things here. Well, thank you so much, Spencer. Great talking to you again. I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. What is one movie that a prospective student might not know that maybe they should watch before coming?
Oh, wow. That is on the spot. Before coming to university, you mean?
Sure.
Oh, wow. If there I can think of a filmmaker, I guess I would say. There's a filmmaker from Argentina. Her name is, speaking of Latin American cinema, her name is Lucrecia Martel. She's only made a couple movies over the past 20 years or so, but I think if there's anything to be found in a filmmaker who is doing, like narrative films, but is pushing the form forward and thinking about how to design sound and design images in new ways, she's an absolute genius.
Right. So that'll give you students a little head start before you come.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Spencer. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Randy. Yeah, this was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Alumni Live, the podcast special series about the film and video major. Be sure to listen to the next episode in the series and subscribe to our podcast to hear even more from our alumni as they talk about their work in different parts of the industry. Check out Alumni Live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more conversations and networking. Let us know what topics you want to hear our alumni talk about. The Grand Valley State University Film and Video Alumni Network is here for you, and we're glad that you're here. Thank you for listening.